Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program may contain adult content and is intended for mature audiences only.
Tear gas first started down the Commons, then the guard moved up on both sides of Taylor Hall and forced the kids off the Commons. Then one group, I don't know how many there were, 50 maybe, perhaps more, perhaps less, moved down to the practice football field.
After you feed them, then what will we do? Will you ask them to leave?
They've got grievances, they've got demands. There are demands on both sides. We have to talk.
And then there were a whole lot of kids around them. A few kids were throwing sticks and stones, but that was only a handful, not more than 10, 15. And then the guard shot some tear gas up on the hill to disperse the crowd, and the kids picked it up and threw it back.
We'll fly out. Start, we'll make a perimeter, a circle, right out in here. From the right, you move out. You start a big circle around here.
You don't talk during a state of emergency, Mike. You know that. Come on.
I'm sorry, but
we'll
I don't
talk
want
as
people
soon
shot.
as we get this
I
settled
don't
down.
want people shot on this campus, just as a citizen of this campus.
Who wants people
All
shot?
right, but they're sitting quietly.
Okay, will you ask them to leave?
This area immediately. Leave this area immediately.
And all of a sudden I heard the shooting. And then I saw people dropping to the ground, and then I fell to the ground also, because I couldn't walk anymore. And
what the investigators have to determine then is whether indeed there was a sniper and whether the guard was justified in firing its weapons, or whether, as some people here believe, the guard, under the pressure of a rock-throwing attack, panicked and fired its weapons indiscriminately, killing 4 people. Ike Pappas, CBS News, at Kent, Ohio.
And we're live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Radioactive. We decided tonight to do a special kind of a show, at least the first hour of it, where we commemorate the shootings at Kent State. I know several of us probably have stories about this. I know I do, where I was, and the friends that I had that actually participated in some of the stuff that was going on back then. It was quite a story, and it's hard to believe that it was 50 years ago. 50 years ago tomorrow that this all went on. I remember myself arguing with my mother several times over the course of probably another 10 years or so about what happened at Kent and why everything turned out and who was responsible. And to me it was just hard to believe that the U.S. military, no matter what faction of it back then, would open fire on its own citizens. But yeah, it was something else. Tonight we have with us Mr. Dale Miracle. Good evening, Dale.
Good evening.
And we also have my resident wife. Good evening, Flora. You there?
Yeah, I'm here, but I was going to say I couldn't hear you.
Okay, that...
As opposed to the non-resident wife.
Oh, you're funny. I don't know what you said, but you're funny.
Well, you said resident wife, and I said, well, it's non-resident wife.
And we also have somebody that is very welcome here, and she's taking pictures of all of us. We have Miss Beth Roose. Good evening, Beth. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good to have you here.
Thanks.
You're becoming part of the crew. You better watch that.
Oh, no.
You don't know where that could end up.
Oh, boy.
The assimilation has completed.
Patrick, I still can't hear.
Are you saying resistance is futile?
That's true. You can't hear, Flora?
There, now I can hear.
You told me it was too loud.
Well, what?
Yeah, that's about it, too.
Whatever.
Anyway, getting back to the subject, I'm not sure. Do you have any recollections of Kent State Dale?
No, the only information that I have is from what I've read, and when I was working under contract at Goodyear back in between 98 and 2000, our direct report was in the Guard at that time, and he told me about his involvement in it. And it's also the reason why it was reversed, but initially he had a dishonorable discharge that was reversed into an honorable discharge because he didn't agree with what happened either.
Well, a lot of people don't, and I'm not really here to debate that. I'm not really here to do anything but, kind of give everybody an inkling on what it was like back then. And then on top of that, see where we've come since then. There for a long time, I thought the country and everything was doing a lot better. But with recent events over the past few months, I'm beginning to wonder if that's all true or not. The simple fact of it is we still have a very, I want to call it bourgeois government, and they're almost to the point where it's a little bit out of hand, without saying too much about that. But on the other hand, it's some of it's, I would suppose, is probably, depending on how you look at it, for our own good. I've heard complaint after complaint lately of what's happening with Mike DeWine and how our civil liberties are being stepped all over and everything else, which I'm not one to debate that, but I'm not one to deny it either. Never in history has there ever been a place where we've been told to shelter in place and pretty much told we would, if we do certain things, we'd be arrested for it. Parties and stuff like that. To me, it's just remembering back when all that was going on. I was that would have been 70, so I would have been 14. Where were you when you were 14, Beth? I know you don't want
same as you.
I know you don't want to talk about this.
However, I do remember, watching it on TV and certainly thinking, what are those military people doing? And so it seemed absurd to me at 14 that, they were firing live rounds at people. So
And that's the most unbelievable part. Not only that, and the way it supposedly started. I remember back then hearing that one of the Black Panthers started the whole thing by shooting off fireworks or firing a gun. I remember the Guard just decided to fire on their own. The recollections that I have of this probably wouldn't stand up anywhere. But that was part of me being 14 years old at the time. How about you, Flora? What do you remember about that back then?
Well, as we had discussed earlier today, I was like only 9, so I don't have much recollection about it at all. It must not have been something that my dad was overly, I don't know. I could say my dad was always a good Democrat for never voting, but like I said, he never. It doesn't stick out in my mind for any reason, and so I really have no recollection of it personally. And I mean, what I've heard since then, yeah, I mean, you know.
Well, I got a little clip that I'm going to play here. I guess we can do this now on what actually happened that day, and there were some of the stuff that the kids since have said about that. The clip is called, as soon as I find it, it's called the Kent State Shootings Explained in History. I'm going to roll this clip quick, and when we come back on the other side, if you weren't there when it all happened or seen any news reports or anything on it, we'll take and talk about it a little more after that. But stay tuned, and we'll be back on the other side of this. You're listening to Radioactive on the Crooked River Radio Network.
On May 4th, 1970, the Ohio National Guard opened fire on students protesting the Vietnam War, leaving 4 students
our
dead.
direct report,
This tragedy, known as the Kent State Incident, further divided a nation already torn over U.S. involvement in Vietnam, and it had lasting effects on the political stage. Students protested against the Vietnam War in large numbers. Young people who watched their friends, siblings, and peers being drafted were particularly active in demonstrating. And by 1970, U.S. involvement in Vietnam had actually begun to decrease. That is, until April 28th, when President Richard Nixon authorized a preemptive strike for troops to cross from South Vietnam into Cambodia. 2 days later, he made a televised speech justifying these actions. This triggered a new wave of anti-war demonstrations. On May 1st, the day after Nixon's announcement, 2 peaceful rallies were held at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. Later that night, drunken revelers in downtown began pushing over garbage cans, lighting fires, and breaking store windows. Police in riot gear pushed everyone back to campus, and the whole thing was over by 2:30 a.m. The next day, as students cleaned up the damage downtown, Kent Mayor Leroy Satrum declared a civil emergency and called in the Ohio National Guard, worried that violence would erupt again. That evening, 1,000 demonstrators gathered near the campus ROTC building, and several set it aflame. The building ultimately burned to the ground. By May 3rd, 1,200 National Guardsmen occupied the Kent State campus. The governor of Ohio even helicoptered to the school and spoke at a press conference promising to use law enforcement against student protesters. Frustrated students waited to meet with officials that night, but the officials didn't show up. So the students blocked traffic in protest. Some grew violent and were met with bayonets and tear gas. On May 4th, the governor banned demonstrations completely, distributing 12,000 leaflets prohibiting protests. But the students either didn't get the message or they didn't care. By noon, nearly 3,000 students had congregated in the university commons, 500 protesting, 1,000 cheering, and 1,500 watching. That's when 100 guardsmen confronted the protesters with M1 rifles. What happened is still clouded in confusion. The general commanding the guard ordered the crowd to disperse from a jeep, but was met with chants and rock throwing. The guard retaliated with tear gas and advanced using bayonets on their rifles to push the crowd back. And it worked. The crowd dispersed. But then, as witnesses say, 28 of the guardsmen who had retreated up a hill fired between 61 and 67 shots, some in the air and some directly at the protesters. 4 students were killed. Victims Jeffrey Glenn Miller and Allison B. Krause were protesting, and William Knox Schroeder and Sandra Lee Scheuer were just bystanders. All were between 19 and 20 years old, and they were students in good standing. 9 other students were also injured. Troops claimed that they opened fire after being shot at by a sniper, but spectators heatedly denied that there were any gunshots before the guard opened fire. After the incident, Newsweek published an article with a famous photo of a 14-year-old runaway kneeling over one of the students who had been shot and killed. This photo would become a symbol of the climate of America during the Vietnam War and the violence and chaos brought on by the war itself. People became more angered and vocal about the Vietnam War than ever before. Militant activism broke out across college campuses all over the country. On May 9th, 100,000 protesters demonstrated in front of the White House. But less than a week after the demonstration, a shooting occurred on another university campus. At Jackson State University in Mississippi, city and state police opened fire on a group of students, killing 2 and injuring 12. These tragedies may have spurred anti-war activism, but the resulting protest also provoked a counter-movement from conservatives and a surge in patriotism. Some argue that this reaction from those who disagreed with the protesters, often called the silent majority, handed Nixon the presidency in 1972. The Kent State incident changed America, illuminating a great divide not only over the Vietnam War, but also Americans' understanding of patriotism, a debate that continues to this day.
And we're back again. Aren't you lucky? Yeah, that bit actually explained quite a few things as far as the eyes of what actually went on. Not to dwell on this a whole lot, but some of the rumors, like I said, you heard. You have to understand, I was at this point in my life, I was at a skating rink, probably about 8 or 10 hours a day, and on top of that, sorry about that, I got to turn something off here. On top of that, we were. I was talking to my friends, and I had friends that were older like that, and the older friends were. Oh, thank you. My wife is feeding me.
No, this is mine as far as the pizzas.
You guys are welcome to. Oh, Dale's already over there. You're welcome to some pizza if you want, Beth. My friends were all kind of rowdy. I had this one friend by the name of Mike that was. He was at the actual Kent occurrence, and was the day that I got a first-hand explanation as far as why they burnt the ROTC building down from probably a 19-year-old man at the time. And they said that they were protesting the government making us go to war, for stupidity, pretty much. And he was he actually was arrested because the weird part about it, I hadn't seen him for about 4 months. And it was because he was arrested at that occurrence, and he told me later on. He says they arrested me because I was running around chopping up fire hoses with my tomahawk. A true story.
This wasn't a Woodridge person, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
He actually was going to the Cuyahoga Falls. He actually went to Falls and graduated from there. But the stories I remember from that. Plus, on top of the stuff that I'd heard from my mother, she swore that the National Guard had the right to shoot the kids. They were being thrown. They had rocks thrown at them, and this and that and the other thing. And personally, I never did buy that story. I never probably will. Bless my mother's soul and all, but. Simple fact of it was, I don't think there was really anything that provoked it. If they did indeed open up on the students. I have another bit that I probably want to play here, but I would like to stall here for a little bit so we can fill up this half hour. But you were young enough. You weren't ever put in a draft, were you, Dale?
what they call it, I had to register for selective service, but it was, I'm thinking it was phased out shortly after.
Usually what they classed you as is 1H, which was unclassifiable. And that's coming from somebody who had to do that also. I had to file for the selective service when I was 19 or 18 in order to keep myself from getting arrested. And excuse me while I eat my pizza here, but I'm going to have a piece of pizza. Oh, you're welcome to join us if you want to.
Huh?
Take and give Marcos a call and get yourself pizza and come on and join us.
So now, Dale, you said something about you had to register for... Because I thought they quit doing that when I graduated.
I can't remember the specific date.
They actually stopped the draft when you about the time you...
Because when I graduated in 79, it seems to me I remember it was like just before I graduated.
Yeah, there was the draft, and then they had another thing that they called the selective service, which wasn't the same, because with the draft, it was more of you were going, it's just a matter of when. Where the selective service was, they have a record of who you are and where you live, and you can be drafted then. But I'm thinking, I don't remember. I'm thinking it could have been the Clinton presidency. I'm thinking it was maybe later 90s. I'm thinking it when it was completely ended. I think I could be wrong, but mine was selective service. I think was 92.
Oh, okay.
Oh, let's see, 1890.
1892? Wow, you're
I'm just saying this. I don't do math in my head real good, but you figure 20 years on 74 would be 94. 2 years after that would be, it'd be 92 then. Yeah, it was when my selective service. Because I remember my mom mentioned that at dinner, and my dad served in World War II in the 71st Infantry 5th Army under Patton. Wow. And he was a platoon sergeant with a secondary in medical, and he didn't talk a lot about that, because a lot of that generation never did talk about it. But he told me, he said, when my mom mentioned, he said, "Oh, Dale signed up for the selective service," and my dad's like, he says, "Well, just be lucky you weren't like me. I signed up for the draft, and I can't remember if it was 5 days later or 7 days later, I was in Fort Benning, Georgia."
Oh, that was quick.
Yes.
Wow.
They actually were going to take him earlier, but they deferred it because of his graduation.
Wow.
So he graduated in May, and in the middle of May, it's what's now a Fort Benning Jump School, but it was I guess what they used at that time to inter the.
It seems to me that about the middle of June of 72, they actually did away with the draft. They didn't do away with it. They reclassified it as selective service. And it's kind of funny, because if it would have went any longer, I probably would have gotten drafted myself. But the timing was just about perfect, because I didn't have to go. Nor did I want to. It would have been different. I may have, not to tell stories on myself or anything, but I may have been a conscientious objector.
You had been heading for Canada? Oh, Canada?
I know several people that did.
That's so do I.
And for me to have tried to be trained to kill somebody, I could have never done that. Really, at that age at all. Let alone even now. My beliefs are such that I couldn't kill nobody. Even in the words or in the under the theme of politics. And It looks like we do have somebody on Zoom that just joined us. Good evening, Melanie.
Hello.
This is Melanie Yusko just come in. Melanie in the house. Welcome to our little Kent State discussion. My youngest daughter, or my oldest daughter rather, Justine, got a chance. She was graduating from Kent State, and the year that she graduated that Peter, Paul, and Mary were there? Was the 25th anniversary. I remember that.
Paul and Mary. Ooh, there's a story I could
So
tell you.
there is some 25. Oh, I could tell you a couple too. Maybe we'll have to swap stories here in a minute. But they gave us a chance to. She got tickets to the Peter, Paul, and Mary concert that they did at Kent for the 25th anniversary. That thing was awesome. It was. We actually got to see them. My daughter actually got to go up and talk to him. She was actually able to. She was walking through this park or whatever, and the next thing you know, she's able to actually walk up and talk to them. They were there for the students. Did a hell of a concert. I've always liked the '60s music anyway, and I remember everything. My first recollection of them was probably Puff the Magic Dragon.
Mine too.
And Lemon Tree. God, what
yes.
a pretty song. Trying to think of some of the other ones they did. If I Had a Hammer.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, then again, we're going to show our age here a little bit, Beth.
Yep, I feel it coming.
What about Dylan? I mean, what a songwriter that boy is. But, that's really showing our age there. But that...
oh, gosh, Dale, man, they must be really old.
Well, Dylan he still sings here and there.
I'm kidding. I sort of remember. I'm real good at singing a song, but knowing who did it.
Remember the song Blowing in the Wind?
Oh, yes.
That was Dylan.
Really?
He wrote that.
Well, see, I knew that song.
A lot of the protest songs when he did. The times they are changing. Come gather, young people. Blah, blah, blah. For the times they are changing.
So did you ever see them in person?
Peter, Paul, and Mary? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I did.
When did you see them?
At the 25th anniversary.
Oh, at the 25th.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you my experience seeing them. It was I want to say 69 in the youth group at the Northampton United Methodist Church. Oh yay! There was a young pastor from the UK there, John Roberts, and he decided on the spur of the moment that we would walk to Blossom Music Center
to
go see. No parents' permission, but we
From
walked
Northampton.
Oh,
from Northampton, at Bath, and we walked all the way, and so that was fun.
Well, those were the days.
Oh yeah! And so the concert was, great. We all loved it, and then
I went to see Pink Floyd that way.
yeah. Well, so then we got back. We walked back after the concert, and the parents, of course, was wondering where we were all at because we were a little late walking back. And so, but it was a great concert, and the parents were upset to say the least, and they had Pastor Roberts deported. The FBI came a-calling.
Oh, my.
And so back to the UK he went. I don't know whatever happened to him, but it was nice of him to take us to see, and he paid for all of us to see Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Sweet. Back in about 73.
That would have been scary in this day and age.
Oh, yeah.
Back in about 73, late 72 or early 70, might have been the summer of 72. There was a Pink Floyd had come to Blossom, I like their music, but didn't really have any of their albums or anything like that. Well, you know Randy Rado.
Yeah.
Well, he lived right behind Blossom at the time. So he says, "Bring your car over here, drop it off in my driveway. It's gonna take a little walking, but we're gonna go to a concert tonight. Do you have tickets? You don't need tickets. We'll get in. Don't you worry about it." So I get over there and I got this pair of corduroy pants on. I remember this like it was last night. We go walking through the backwoods back into the Blossom property, and there's this 8-foot fence with barbed wire around it that pretty much circled the whole venue. And Randy gets this, he's got this, I couldn't figure out why he was carrying this poncho. And so we get walking up there, and we start seeing 2 or 3 people here. Now, mind you, 2 weeks before this, Blossom they had only admitted so many people into the concert, and people were parked along the sides of Northampton Road. You probably remember this. And clear down almost into Hidden Valley.
Oh, boy.
And the cars were parked, and they were walking to Blossom. Mm-hmm. And they did the same thing for Steele's Corners there. Well, they had, there were so many people that they banned the cars. And they told Blossom, "You're only going to sell so many tickets, and that's it." Well, the record, or the number, was 32,000. I remember that pretty much too. And we went, we walked back there, and you start seeing a couple people here, 3 or 4 people there, and they're all heading for this fence. And this fence wasn't minuscule. It was probably 8 foot tall, and it had a couple of razor wire on top. Yeah. So Randy takes this poncho, goes running up to the fence, climbs the fence, throws this poncho over top of it, and says, "Come on, Pat, get your ass over here."
Now wait a minute. I know this guy. He's shorter than you are.
The first and only time I have ever climbed a fence. I get to the top, my damn pants get snagged, and I get a rip about probably 2 inches long in the seat of my pants.
Oh.
So I did get in there. They had this security guard that was walking the perimeter.
You're boring a Melanie. I just saw her yawn.
And she's heard this story before.
Yeah.
She takes her. This guard was walking the perimeter, and he had to know what was going on.
Sure.
You know, you could hear people talking the whole length of the damn place. He no sooner turns the corner, and you look down the fence, and there's thousands of people going over this fence. I have never seen it. Hundreds of people at a time.
See what's really weird is this guy I lived with in Vermont, I think he was probably one of the guys. He saw going over that fence too. Because he used to talk about that too.
Anyway, we get into the concert, which was probably the 2nd or 3rd time that I'd ever really had any pot, I guess, for and I'll tell you the truth, I got stoned. I got stoned on my rear end. There was a blue cloud floating over that concert.
I thought it had something to do with your mom's brownies.
And that
was a different time.
That'll fold into the story here in a minute.
Oh.
So anyway, there's pot flying all over the place. I was actually able to walk down and get almost into the mosh pit down in front of the Blossom stage, and I was like 6 feet from I was about 6 feet from the stage, and I could see, I think it was Adultery that was in that band. I was like, from me to you, Beth, from him. And I waved at him. He waved back. Hey.
And he waved back to you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Then the concert ends. They played this song, I think it was called Great Gig in the Sky. It had everybody scared to death because we were all stoned.
Oh, dear.
And the beginning of it sounds like a blitzkrieg. Planes flying. Well, we all get the concert ends. We end up walking back to Randy's house. I pick my car up and I go home. Well, my mom had just fixed, she liked to bake, and she had just fixed a big old pan of brownies. And I walked in that door, and I looked at them brownies, and I hadn't eaten since probably 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I looked at them brownies, and I went, oh, God, brownies, come on. I left a strip about an inch wide.
Oh, boy.
The next morning, my mom comes in to my bedroom. The door flies open. She's got this pan of brownies hanging in her hand. What the hell happened to all my brownies? There was a full pan when I went to bed. I don't know, Ma. I was hungry. I said, I left you an inch.
Awesome.
And that's my Pink Floyd story.
All righty. All right, circling back to Kent State.
Yeah.
So, Jane Fonda. Can we talk about her?
Oh, yes, let's.
Because she was supposed to speak at the ceremonies, and there was a big uproar about her coming since she was considered a treasonous traitor and aligning with the communist regime. And so, I don't know, what do you think about that, Dale? Oh, sorry. I see both of them are eating pizza. Okay.
Well, I can talk for...
Okay.
I think. As far as Jane Fonda goes, she was... she's trash.
Yep.
I thought that ever since that went on. I remember seeing the news reports of it. I remember her ass sitting on a anti-aircraft gun, and her going, pow, pow, pow. It was flipping ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then she came back and expected a hero's welcome back because she was over there and horse shit.
Yep.
That woman was not worth the powder to blow her to hell. Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Here's my
Did
friend.
he say that?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, enjoy it, because that'll be the last time I talk about that.
Yeah. Dale's turn.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can beat that.
I don't think I can beat that, but since I'm the odd man out and not
I was going to say the youngest.
and not live through that, I just know from documentaries and stuff that I have seen that there's a right time and a wrong time to do something, and I think a lot of it more for her was more of the photo op and more than what she was there to do. And even though she tried to have the mea culpas since then,
Mm-hmm.
and some people think, well, yeah, that was, when she was in her younger age, and she just didn't know what she was doing. Yes, she knew what she was doing, but she didn't think about the effects of what she was doing. It's the same thing from every generation. It's like the generation we live in now, with everything's on the internet. And these, not to pick on the millennials,
And
but
to
the
be honest
millennials
about it, she couldn't act.
and the Y generation, we grew up where things can be online, so you can't go back. Because all the stuff that you and Pat and Flora have done, all the stupid things, there's no record of it except for your own memories. But now we live.
Oh, wait a minute. I was going to say, I don't know.
Good
deal over the last year, I'd say.
But I'm saying
I know.
it's a different era, and I just don't think that she really thought it through. Cause I from this my own impression of seeing the documentaries, I'm thinking it was more of photo op. It's sort of like the old saying, like the celebrity saying, "There's no such thing as bad publicity as long as people are talking about you."
Absolutely.
She was a typical starlet too, and back, she had a lot of.
Because her
bad
dad was
blood.
entitled.
Her dad was famous, and
Yep.
Yeah, her dad was Henry Ford.
her brother coming in to,
But that adds to it because it's also part of my mouth is full, but
it's okay.
I'm thinking that was part of it too, where it's sort of like the quote unquote entitlement. It was like, well, do you know who my father is? I can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And you can believe that he had probably some sort of influence on that because those two used to be pretty close. That's why they ended up doing that film at the end of his career.
Right.
It was because he wanted to help his daughter out.
Maybe he was hoping some of his acting skills would eventually rub off on her, which it never did.
Well, now, see, I'm sorry.
The best movie she ever did was Barbarella.
Oh,
and I only watched that because of the boobs.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that movie. That must have been before me. But, the only thing I remember, what comes to my mind was the 9 to 5.
No.
Her and...
she was decent now.
Her and... We've got a dog. We've got a dog that was looking like she was going to be friendly, and then fake, not.
Fake me out. My reflexes are faster than hers. So, awesome.
Miss Yoda.
Well,
so yeah. Oh,
well, and there were other people in her era too that were entitled people, like Nancy Sinatra. Please, there was another one. Her boots were made for walking, literally. So,
and there again, that's something else that I'm, I know that song, but do I know that much about Nancy Sinatra? Nah.
That was Frankie's daughter.
Well, I knew that she was his daughter.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's more of the era of you can open the door, but you have to walk through it.
Right.
It's like walk, as the other saying goes, walking in their shadow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
See, you guys were just enough older than me that you caught a little more of what was happening at that time than I did. That's for sure.
I always thought I was old till tonight. You confirm that. My son.
Sorry, Beth.
He was in junior high. He came home and said, "We're studying some war from a long time ago." And I said, "Oh, the Civil War." And he goes, "No." I said, "Oh, the Revolutionary War." And he goes, "No." I said, "The War of 1812." And he's saying, "No, some war called Viet something or other." And I was like, "Vietnam? Are you kidding me?" And he goes, "And then we're doing the Conestoga wagons. You know that Dahmer party? Were you alive then?"
See, now I heard a lot about... from my dad about the Korean War.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was in the Korean War, and the neighbor that lived up the road had been in the Korean War as well. So I heard a lot about that. And of course, my little brother gets stationed over there later on.
Oh, dear.
And both the neighbor up the road and my dad are like, "Now, Henry, you be watching out for them women over there. You be watching out." Because things certainly hadn't changed much in, 40 years or something.
Wow.
Because he wrote, oh my goodness, my little brother wrote me letters about, "I'm coming home to surprise Mom and Dad, but don't tell them." And, he's telling me about he wants to marry some little girl over there and bring her home, and I'm like, no, Henry, no, you can't do this. And then he turns around and, I'm going to surprise him, I'm coming home, and didn't know he was going to announce he was going to marry some girl here in the States that my parents didn't like, and it's like, really?
Wow.
Yeah, that was my experience with the...
I don't know what it is about Korean women. About every GI that ever went over there brought home a Korean wife.
Well, I'm from
From
what the neighbor man talked about, which I will not go into what he said because I had to be 15, 16 when he come down to our house playing cards with my dad, and they'd sit there playing cards and whatever, and he'd talk about. I'm not going to say what he talked about them Korean women. I was just like, really?
Yeah, I had a coworker when I worked at Compaq that was on the, I think it was the USS Kitty Hawk, and he married one, and this was 2000, 2001, and they had been married for, oh, good grief, 40 years.
Well, sometimes it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine that was over there for 6 years, and he was a tank driver over there, and he was right near the DMZ and all that, and he actually fell in love with a woman over there, and her family accepted him because of the fact that they honored her doing what she did. The whole concept of all that back in the 70s to me was like, wow.
Yeah, I think Henry was actually gonna have to buy this girl or something, if I remember. And it was like, no, you ain't doing that.
Well, if you watch that 90-day fiance or whatever it is, those people that go overseas, those men, they have to buy those women. They like water buffaloes and goats and all kinds of stuff. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Funny you bring up about water buffaloes and goats, but because the neighbors next door, I don't know what nationality they are, but twice.
I think they had goats over there last night.
Twice in the last 6 months.
Butchered goats.
I will say, because of Cinco de Mayo, and I lived in Texas for a long time, and in Texas, that's what they had cabrito, which is goat.
Really?
And that's what they would butcher and barbecue and put in the smoke pits for
this
Cinco
ain't
de
it
Mayo.
over there. Over there, about 6 months ago, they did the same frickin' thing.
Well,
somebody pulls in the driveway with a frickin' couple totes full of
goat meat,
of stuffed meat in
meat.
plastic bags, and then they unloaded it into the garage, and somebody's in there chop. And you know, our two little dogs, one of them's over there barking, and I said, you better stop it, they may eat dog.
Dog stopped barking.
And she stopped, frickin' Rosie quit barking. It was like, but I'm like going,
just keep in mind that Texas is a big Hispanic population, and the Hispanics
they're not Hispanic.
Eat cabrito for Cinco de Mayo.
These people are not Hispanic. They're probably like Japanese, Chinese, or I don't know what they are. I have no idea.
Well, different strokes for different folks. Huh?
I guess so. I guess we got a little away from your
Kent State.
Kent State, didn't we?
But no, that's all right. We're coming up on the top of the hour anyway.
You just have to be careful when you're doing dating like that, because I'm not going to name who this is to protect the innocent, but I know somebody that was in the military.
So you did it, I guess.
No,
he wasn't in the military.
No, this is the truth. This is a true story. I'm just not saying who it is, but I can't remember if it was Israeli or from Turkey. But the as the younger kids would say, the too long didn't read. He had to call the police because she was chasing him around the house with a 7-inch cleaver because he made a comment about the food that apparently didn't agree with her. That was saying that a Native American speaker wouldn't have thought anything of it. And let's just say that she was very well skilled in weaponry.
Sounds Israeli to me.
Sure, you have to be.
Her name wasn't Ziva, was it? Ziva David?
That's what we nicknamed her.
Gotcha.
I love Ziva, but yeah.
And what's funny, Pablo Dakota is Colombian.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah, she's from...
That's Colombian.
I can't remember where it is, but yeah. It's just she could pass as an Israeli.
Wow, commando.
Yeah. I'm not sure if she was.
Well, they all have to join the military, male and female. So.
Well, out of the countries, I can't remember. I think Germany, still does.
Male and female. Yep.
I think Sweden still has a compensatory, at least attending a military school, maybe not military service, but I think that the Swedish, they have a compensatory thing like that. I think there's some other other countries like that. But I'm not sure if she was a native Colombian, but I'm pretty sure she's from Colombia.
I thought she was from Brazil or Morocco. I'll have to look that one up.
Morocco is just on the other side of Muammar Gaddafi. What is it? Libya.
Libya.
Yeah.
Wherever it is, whatever.
Casablanca.
I don't know.
That's.
I don't know, but if I ever had a chance at that,
we know.
Yeah, the geography. Yeah.
Myself.
I think no, never mind.
Well, that's just not to make a tangent, but it's just one of those things where I have some friends that are school teachers, and I don't talk to them much anymore. Just different, social circles and stuff. But it's like back when I would talk to them a lot. You have to figure, because that's one of the problems that they have with the school board and the state and what curriculum they teach. And it's the fact that as history goes on, who really makes the decision of what's important to be taught? Because you figure with Pat and his generation and your generation of what happened up until that point and how much time you could spend on it. And then you figure there is Flora, where lived through another war. You lived through a war. And then my generation, we lived through a war. So it's like, what is really deemed important? Because that's the problem that they have, is they say, well, you don't need to teach that. Well, that is on that, because if you don't say that, it doesn't make any sense. It's also not understanding the history of, like, Korea.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that the history of Korea dates back, not specifically, but conflicts back to the 12th and 13th century with the Mongols in China, and then Russia actually occupied parts of North Korea up until recent memory. That's why they're a communist held. So, it's kind of interesting there.
I love to watch the guy that goes around and asks on college campuses, things that you should know. I think it was on some campus in California, and who lives at 6200 Pennsylvania Avenue. No one got it. No one knew the answer. You'd go, hello, your president lives there? And so then they'd ask, well, who's the current vice president? I don't know. There was no one that could even get that one right. And then they decided to do a really tough one. Who won the Civil War? And they're going, I don't know, the Germans? And you're going, what?
That reminds me of the jaywalking episodes back when Jay was on the Tonight Show, and they had where he would go out onto the sidewalks there outside of the production facility there. A lot of people don't realize, if you've never visited California before, when they see that they're going out on the sidewalk, everybody thinks that, I don't know what other people's perception of it is, but they're thinking that these are big studio sets and you're miles off of the road. This is no. When you go into The Price is Right, you go into the Tonight Show, you're literally off of whatever street it is, like Sunset Boulevard. You literally step out. People waiting to get into the show are actually on the sidewalk.
I had that when we we recorded the voiceovers for one of my animated films, and Rob Schneider. I had Rob Schneider and Catherine Hicks and Aaron Gray and just tons of. There was 43 of them. Rance Howard was there. Ronnie Howard's dad. At any rate, we lost electric. Well, there was a bunch of linemen out there from the electric company, and they were working on the lines, and so we all went outside. Most of them were smoking. I couldn't believe all of them that were smokers. But at any rate, so here comes Rob, and one of those linemen recognized Rob, and the other one recognized Aaron Gray from Battlestar Galactica. Good Lord. At any rate, so they all came down off of their bucket trucks. They came down, and there was like 12 people that was swarmed around Aaron Gray and Rob Schneider. And the lights had already came on, so I'm like, can we get back in and get there. I'm paying for this. It was at Studio City. And, I say that because people would think they're just walking up and down the sidewalk, tons of people. No, that's not how it was at Studio City where I was at. But Bob stayed out there and signed every autograph and signed everyone with his tagline, "You can do it." So he signed that on every single vest of those linemen. And then before I know it, I don't know where all these people came from, but he stood out there an hour signing autographs. So I was just like, boy, can we get in here? Finally, I made one of the studio people, go get him and bring him in. But, while it seems like there'd be a lot of people that would be walking by Studio City.
Yeah, Studio City is a little bit off the beaten
it's
path.
off the beaten path.
But like The Price is Right and like the one for the Tonight Show and all that,
Yeah.
we're more closer to like.
Right.
Well, as far as the Tonight Show or I've been to Radio City before. The impressive one there is where David Letterman used to be taped.
Yes, I've been there too.
That what is it? Who's in there now? That took Letterman's place. I can't think of his name.
Oh,
Colbert.
Or is it Jimmy Fallon? No, he's Colbert. Yeah.
Oh, Colbert.
Colbert.
Stephen Colbert.
I actually stayed in a hotel right next to that theater when that I can't think of his name. David
Letterman?
No, there was another David that was a talk show host in the 70s.
Dave Cavett?
Yeah, Cavett.
Yeah, Cavett. Yeah.
And when he was, his show was in that theater, and I walked by it for 4 or 5 days while we were out there.
Wow.
I went to Woodridge. Actually took. I don't remember even what class it was, but they had an opportunity to go to New York, and we saw 3 Broadway plays while we were there, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I've actually seen J.C. Superstar.
Wow.
That was awesome.
I wished I could have had that opportunity. The only opportunity I had was to muck stalls and, get clean at my parents' farm.
My mom, I'd go home and I'd tell her, "Hey, Mom, I want to go to New York." You said, "Got the money?" "Yeah, I probably could." "Go."
Man, mine didn't say that. They said,
"Good to get rid of me for
a day." Awaiting.
But we went out there. We saw, I think it was 3 plays. And Broadway, the best one was Superstar.
That would be
We went
great.
to see the Rockettes.
I saw them, yeah.
We ate at this German restaurant beforehand that was a couple of blocks from there. And I remember that was the first time I'd ever really had a beer. And, it was legal. 18 was legal out there. Or 17, I think it was. And so, what the hell? We went and had a beer, and I got feeling pretty good, actually.
Oh my gosh, what counselor was with you that allowed that?
We got to the theater.
Man.
We got to the theater, and I remember I couldn't. The stage where it was like right here. The stage was like right here, and I remember. And every time I'd look up, I'd get dizzy, so I kept having to stare at the
dear.
stage.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
It's a lot of fun.
The funny thing, reason why I brought up the jaywalking, when you were talking about the people going to the universities and these kids not knowing the answers, I remember there was some ones that Jay would have, and he had a couple series where he would ask historical questions.
Yes.
And I remember he asked this one college student, he's asking him, like, who are the signers on the Declaration of Independence, and and asking
name
him,
one,
name one, or who had the biggest,
yes.
John Hancock,
right?
And he asked him some other question. Then he asked him, he says, who is on the $50 bill? And this college student, backpack, and he looks at Jay and says, "Jay, you do know I'm a broke college student. What do you think I'm doing with a $50 bill?"
Oh, that was good. Did Jay turn and give you one then?
Oh, Jay turned. He says, "Wait a minute." he actually reaches into his pocket and he's like, all guys are 20, but here.
Awesome. Oh.
No, he said, he actually picked up and he said, who is this?
Could he name him?
Yeah, he said that Jackson.
Andy Jackson.
He let him have it, but it was just funny. Reaching in, but it was just the funniest thing I ever heard. He just looked, and the look on Jay's face was like.
I remember a Jay Leno one too, where he asked who made the first flag. You know, and everyone knows it's Betsy Ross, right? This college kid lady goes, Betty Davis. I thought Jay was going to fall on the cement laughing. Like, yeah, no.
And that's a whole nother interesting tangent you can get on about the history of Betsy Ross. Is everybody thinks that she was like committee appointed, voted in by high degree of discretion. No.
Yeah.
There were hundreds of seamstress, because you have to remember we had sailing ships.
Yes.
And they had to fly the color. There was flag protocol for emergencies, and because we don't speak the same language, but maritime law has different flags that symbolize different things, and it doesn't matter if you speak Portuguese, French, Russian, German, you know what the flags look like. And so they went to her because she wasn't busy.
Wow. There you go.
I'm messing with my daughter, by the way.
I heard some subtle laughter over there. Assumed something was going on that we were not privy to.
Yeah,
I gotta mess with her.
This is the right time
Sitting
and the right
talking
place.
on the phone.
Yep.
Not listening to my show like she should be.
I was wondering about that.
Well, you know about their generation. It's the two-screen thing where I have to have one screen and I have to have the second screen.
That's right.
She's not paying no attention.
Well, what else you got for us for the top of the hour
the
here?
Snapchatting and Instagramming.
Oh, have I got something for you?
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd ask.
Dale, slap me into next week.
Because of what we talked about last
I had to
week.
mute myself.
Sparkle. So,
You keep.
What, Melanie?
I don't.
She's trying to mute herself.
I'm on the phone.
I can't hear. I don't
friend
have
right
ears.
now. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Melanie. Really,
Okay.
you're all
All
right.
right. I'll talk to you in a little bit. I promise I'll call you back. Love you too. Bye.
Okay. Now that we got her off the phone.
Oh, ow! You'll pay for that later.
Need a minute?
I actually decided, since we talked about this last week,
Oh no.
and Beth hadn't heard this, I decided to go back in the archives
She ain't
Oh,
gonna
no.
hear
and
it.
dig out the Uranus bit.
She ain't gonna hear it now because she don't have her headphones on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Beth, you got to put the headphones
They
on.
don't work. They're not on.
You need to pot them up.
Oh, that's right. She wasn't sitting down.
That's mine. That's mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure? Yeah, really?
Oh, I can't hear you.
What?
He's trying to tell you something, Dale.
John is always talking about the board operator. All right, I'm going to play this bit.
Remember, I control these pictures.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Photoshop and the deep fakes.
You betcha.
I decided to go back into the archives and dig this up, and I haven't listened to it for a while, but I know this thing is damn funny. Let's
Let me swallow here before you play it. I don't want to choke.
Dale.
All right.
I'm trying to see how long. Oh, there it is. This bit is actually only 1 minute and 25 seconds long, but it's worth every second of it.
Every minute
So
of it.
we're going to take it. This is about Uranus, Missouri.
Oh, no, we're on that.
You ought to see what my daughter's doing.
I don't know if I.
She is her father's daughter. Anyway, I'm going to play this bit that was recorded about a couple of years ago now. We've had so much fun with this bit, I just had to bring it back again. So hang in there. We'll be back on the other side. You're listening to Radioactive on the Crooked River Radio Network.
A Missouri town named Uranus plans to start publishing a weekly newspaper. It will be called the Uranus Examiner, reports the BBC. While many are no doubt quite amused by the title, a number of locals are not. According to the Wichita Eagle, the mayor of nearby Waynesville said that the innuendo will cause public ridicule, and I will not be a part of it. Based on the names of some local businesses, it appears that ship has already sailed. They include Uranus Fudge, the Uranus Axhole, and Escape Uranus. Further, a website that highlights area attractions notes there's a lot to do in and around Uranus. The Guardian notes the first Uranus Examiner is expected to be published in late October.
And just days after their local newspaper closed down, a Missouri town is now getting a new one. And the new paper's editor says this paper will be a fun paper. Natalie Sanders says the paper will include local news and promote the small town where it will be published. The town is on historic Route 66 and known for quirky attractions. The name of the paper is also getting some chuckles. It's called the Uranus Examiner, but not everybody apparently thinks it's funny.
I think that the Pulaski County Examiner, for example, would have been a real hit.
I want to see it succeed. That name does not indicate a serious newspaper.
But it's got people talking. The first issue of the new paper is expected next month. You got to get people to read first and foremost, right? Yeah.
All right. That was the Uranus Examiner. Unfortunately, from what I understand from Eric and a couple other people, the paper unfortunately went under, and it is no more. So there is no more stuff coming. There is no more stuff coming out of Uranus to examine. I'm surprised somebody on the other side of this monitor is quiet.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dale has no comment, and he was right through
No,
there.
actually, I'm going into Google Maps satellite view, and I was going to show you Uranus.
Okay, awesome.
But my favorite...
Hey, Beth, you want to see Uranus?
Yeah,
my favorite attraction has got to be the axe throwing. Because what type of fun is fun when you can throw axes in Uranus?
Yes, I mean, wow.
The Uranus fudge thing was kind of funny too.
I knew I should have took the pictures and ran.
You know, once
I resisted sitting down here.
I need to order some fudge.
Resistance is futile.
Yes.
We should have a taste testing sometime. I need to order some fudge from Uranus, and we can try it online.
On air.
I'll tell you what, the one thing that I want to do, if this boy is ever going through Uranus, Missouri, he
want him to pick up
he
some
has
fudge?
got to stop and let me do a live interview.
Oh, there you go.
I don't care what time of the day or night it is. I will break into this radio station and we will do a live interview with Dale from Uranus.
You're going to have to show me how to operate it in case you're working when that. Of course,
I'd
be working.
I can remote in.
Yeah, here's some of the from Google Maps. Is you have Fort Uranus. You have the Uranus Fudge Factory. They have the Uranus General Store. You have Escape Uranus.
Oh, Dale.
And then they have the Uranus Museum, so you can look at museum things in Uranus.
Oh my.
You know, if Uranus this big, I'm surprised they don't have anything named hemorrhoids, you know.
They feed us a little town named that.
A bird. Where are you going? I'm going over to hemorrhoid for a while.
Dingleberry.
What I'm trying to do is
Dingleberry, yeah, Melly, that's right.
Oh, my. Why am I hearing music?
Yeah, Beth, here. There.
I don't know, I think it's probably...
You could take a selfie in Uranus.
That's what it...
There we go.
That's what it...
I'll make sure they post that
Not
on
that
his
it's loud,
website.
I was just...
Point it at the camera, Dale.
Huh?
I already did. I got a picture of it.
No, as far as...
well, what I'm trying to do,
camera up
I'm
here.
trying to do a satellite view, and I'm also trying to get it from the interstate because they have a neat-looking sign that I pass
That
by
better?
all the time. And there's the... And I'm trying to do where the sign is, because I'm trying to figure out where to put the... Oh, there it is. Okay, so if I drop the marker... If I drop the marker right there and do the street view... Maybe if I get a little closer here... Let's see, go down a little bit, because you can see it right off of Interstate 44. Yeah, that's a little better. That's...
Did you know Ellie Metzger?
Yeah, sure.
She's listening.
Uh-oh.
Say hello.
Hey, Ellie.
Hey, Ellie, how you doing? Thanks for letting me know the sound wasn't there. This software gets confusing sometimes.
How long were we silent?
Just a couple seconds.
Oh.
It wasn't very long. Well, and every time I switch cameras, it...
So, Pat, I hear you're getting your website revamped.
Yes. And I'm chomping at the bit to do so.
Awesome.
Although I haven't did what your designer asked me to do.
Bex may be calling me. Bex, his designer and my designer is Bex Sutton out of the UK, and I know she keeps sending me little texts saying.
She asked me to give her an idea on what sites I liked as far as for the feel of the site.
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard to do. There's some stuff that I'd like to have put on the website. The first thing that's got to go on there, and I have just neglected to get it there. I want to do a poll question.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
Just so that I can judge what's going on as far as people going to the site and that, what they're thinking, but there's some other stuff that I'd like to do. I'd like to make just a simple song request thing, but other people that I know that have tried that stuff, it didn't work for them.
Right.
And I want to attract as many people as I can get there. I just want to, as far as, because basically that website's our bread and butter.
So are you looking to expand other podcasts into other podcasts?
Yes, that's what we're going to do.
Well, we need to expand Flora's Corners, if I can just make that a suggestion. I'm putting pressure on her over here. She's going, oh no, be quiet.
We may be going to Flora's Corners here in a couple minutes anyway.
Well, I thought you probably have other stuff to do, don't you?
No.
You're on the spot, girl.
Here, get them ready.
See, Flora's Corners, and you've got a few. Who else on your podcast? Who's the characters involved?
We have Dale Miracle.
And what's
we have John Brown.
Wait a minute. What do you do in your podcast?
He
hasn't got a podcast yet.
His own person.
You need a podcast. You're great. You could call it Trucking on the Road. What's your story?
I can drive to Uranus, Missouri, and have a pull in Uranus.
There we go.
And see what people think.
Actually, I think he'd be good as a tech podcast.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
You ought to do that. All you got to do is send it in. I'll play it. You know.
You can pre-record. Okay, who's your other?
I mean, even if you look at like Dave Canyon, you know.
Yeah.
You can do something that simple.
Well, one of the things I'm going to do, I'm talking to some other people I know in a Telegram group I'm in about making a blog.
Oh, that'd be good.
Like a tech-related blog and some other nothing.
We have a show that I play every Monday night that's called Dumbing It Down with Dave.
Uh-huh.
And the guy, the way he does his podcast, he drives for a living. He drives a milk truck from basically New York to up into the Northeast. And after, on his way home from work or going to work, he has a half-hour drive, so he takes and records a half-hour podcast. He's a great dude. The podcasts are. He describes it as the fastest-moving podcast on earth.
I think since you drive truck for a living and you're all down Route 66, you should stop and interview people on what's your story. Call it "What's Your Story." I think you should do that. Where's he at today? We can follow you on GPS. I like that. And find out what's your story. I like that. I think you should do that.
Yeah.
We're nominating you to do that.
Okay, so Beth, tell us about your podcast.
Well, what do you want to know?
Well, when's it start?
I think we're going to start the 16th. Did we decide a time? I think 2 o'clock.
Yeah, 2 in the afternoon, I thought.
Since it's, but we're going to be interviewing authors and illustrators and filmmakers to find out what their story is. And, because a lot of people ask me consistently the same questions. How'd you get into it? What were the struggles? What do you hope to do? And make money, we all hope that. So beyond the making money thing, what do you hope to do? And, and what's your plans for the future? What books are you writing? And tell us about one of your pet projects. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at doing. And I mean, it will, I'm sure, morph as we go along, but that's how we're starting out.
The thing that I've learned over the last even couple of weeks to a month is that the creation process for doing some of these podcasts and that are basically the same. It comes from somebody wanting to get the word out about something or something that they're good at, and the creation process itself just kind of blooms.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, like I said, I'm sure it's going to morph into something beyond what we're even thinking. We're limiting it by saying authors, illustrators, and filmmakers. Who knows, what all it's going to morph into. But I love creative people, but I'm also a techie too. I was a techie all my life.
And the weird part about this, if you go to look up podcasts,
yes,
you hardly ever find anything tech.
Yeah, I know.
I've looked for something to play on this station that's tech. I haven't found it yet. I've got one show.
And Dale's like sitting over there going, "Now wait a minute."
I've got this one show.
You
It's called
just must not be looking in the right place.
Pop Culture Cosmos, and it's they do another one that's I used to run on Saturday evenings, which was another pop culture multiverse. Those are the only 2 tech shows I've been able to find that are religious about doing them and actually do a decent job on them. Of course, they're sponsored, so that's probably another reason.
Well, it's a wide genre, because I listen, well, without looking at my phone, now these are not all tech-related, but I listen to about 29 podcasts, and I also have about 20-some YouTube channels that I watch. So, and that, I can see where Pat's getting at. It's more of like those Russian nesting dolls.
Yes.
is because, like, the stuff that I'm into is a small segment, because it's the alternative desktop operating system called Linux, and it's also something that I'd say 90% of the servers in the world are running. So basically, Netflix is running BSD, which is another thing all by itself. But not to ramble on again, but it's really hard to pinpoint what type of tech that you're actually looking at, because you get into hardware building. You want to build computers. Do you want to get into overclocking? Do you want to get into water cooling? Do you want to do like monitors? I mean, the ones I watch, there are tech reviewers. There are some that show how you do things on computers. I mean, it's so...
Now, I'm with you. I probably watch 20 podcasts a week, but all of them are my friends from NASA. So, you know, and they're all engineers. So, and there's a few that do podcasts on, you know, what's showing, you know, in the stars for the next week, and what you should be looking for, and when you're going to be able to see, you know, like there was a big, it was Mark Grether from Woodridge.
Yeah.
Did you see that? He was asking, there was a whole string of lights that went over, and of course I jokingly put, it's the mothership coming in. I don't think that they liked that, but it really was just a string of satellites. But, I mean, the guy from NASA goes through, you know, what you're going to see in the eastern sky, or, you know, and so that's really cool for kids.
Speaking of things in the sky, let's shift gears to this for a second. Tomorrow morning at between 11 and 11:15, I think they said, there is going to be a flyover of the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. It's
Specifically where?
It's going to start and come in over the lake, fly over Cleveland, fly out to Warren, and fly over that, and then fly back here through Akron. They said that the path will go. They'll come in from the north. It'll be south over Cleveland, then southeast to Warren, then fly over Warren, then come back southwest and fly over the Akron City and General Hospitals. They're doing this for, you know how they did that in New York? Did you see that bit a couple of days ago? They're doing the same thing for this year. It's all a salute to the first responders. And
right. That's nice.
I think that's cool.
So what time is it in Akron then?
It's supposed to be about, they said the whole thing should last between a half hour to 45 minutes, and it's going to happen any time after 11. They weren't exactly sure on the timing, but it's supposed to be after 11 o'clock.
Are they going to do the colors, release the colors too?
I don't know. They didn't really say that much about it.
Well, see, that's what's kind of, because Missy was sharing that the school over here that Ella goes to, they're going to do the teachers are going to do a parade down the street tomorrow.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Patrick's like going, too bad they couldn't, you know, align
They couldn't get here at about 11 o'clock.
Right. Oh, that would have been nice.
You know.
So are you going to film that?
I can't. I got to work. You going to film it?
I guess I could. Yeah.
I have to, you know, I'm going to share.
Some of us still work for a living, Beth.
Sorry.
When he was talking about that Dave Canyon and his dumbing it down with Dave's show, that it was funny because what was it, last Saturday or Sunday, I was on my way back from the store. And as I'm driving, I'm complaining about my venture at Walmart to myself, you know. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking, I'm going along, I'm going, Jesus, you know, what was wrong with those people in there? What this and what that? And then I'm sitting there, and as I'm driving, I'm thinking, no wonder Dave does his show while he's driving down the road. What's your bitter, you know, who's your bitter critic except yourself? Nobody's there to argue with you. You know, it's like you can say whatever you want, and nobody's going to argue the point,
That's right.
It's like, and bouncing ideas off your head, as you're driving down the road. It was like, that kind of helped me think about a podcast subject, but because people don't know. They don't know when it says, go one way this way and do not enter in the store. It's like, excuse me. And then I had the woman yesterday that cut right in front of me. And it's like, excuse me. I didn't say anything. Did I want to? Yeah. But I didn't. But it's like, flippin' A.
I went to Home Depot yesterday, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing there. They must have had 100 people in that store. People running all over, no masks on. What a mess.
I was at the grocery at Myers yesterday, and none of the clerks had on, the cashiers, none of them had on masks. I would say it was a mix of 50% with masks on as far as customers and 50% without. I was one without. But I'm walking down and I did the most sinful thing possible. I coughed. And this lady I thought was going to jump through the next aisle. She got her phone out and took a picture of me and said, "I'm reporting you to the police." Okay, go ahead. I've already had the COVID test. It's negative. But she took a picture. Because I coughed. I said, I have allergies. I'm sorry. Where's the Zyrtec aisle? So, it was crazy.
I was up in Cleveland yesterday with my friend and her mom, and we went to Target on University Circle, I think it was called, or Square, or I don't know. But
University
that's
Circle.
A humongous Target. And there were, it seemed like millions of people in there. It was ridiculous, but almost everybody, I probably counted, I would say 25% of the store didn't have masks.
Mm-hmm.
But, and they're doing, like, they have lines set up where you stand in the aisles for the line,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a lady, like a manager tells you, okay, you can go to register number 6.
Oh,
you put
okay.
your stuff on the register on the belt. You stand there at the belt, the beginning. She bags your stuff, puts it outside the plexiglass. Then you go around and pay at the little pay machine or whatever. And then you're allowed to go. But it's a whole process that they do up there.
Yeah, well, how many times have you seen the clerk come around and clean that little pin pad off? So all the stuff they're making you do, but no one cleans that pin pad off. So
she was doing it every single customer because the
Really?
customer.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't see that at Meyer.
She wiped it down.
Yeah. Well, and like the Giant Eagle, that's where I was at yesterday. But I had learned, I think 2 weeks ago when I went to the Giant Eagle, about how, they have that plexiglass up there, and the sun, well, I'm sure, Melanie, you've probably been, but in the fact that, you put your stuff on there, they ring it up, you gotta, go up towards the front to the cashier to get your card swiped, and then you gotta come back towards the other end of because they moved the place where you pay, and you have to pay at the other end, and it's like a lot of people are like, they're kind of confused.
Like say where my hand is the beginning of the register. Well, I don't know if all you guys can see me, but my hand, and then you let it go on the belt, and where you pay is at the other end of the counter, but they had plexiglass literally all the way down the belt, clear down to where she was bagging, and all the way around. Like, there was very little space where a germ could get to her.
Wow.
So, it was very, very well made up. How they have it.
Excuse me. Oh, goodness.
But we all had masks on, and my best friend's mom, she, of course, got her stimulus, and she hasn't been able to buy for the grandbaby very much.
So she was doing that.
So she
I ran
and spent a whole bunch of money.
I ran into a problem yesterday that I've got a change jar upstairs, and I want to take and it's got quite a, I collect silver for about a year. Throw it in this candy jar and whatever. Well, I want to wrap it and take it to the bank. How am I going to do that without being able to walk into the bank?
Yeah, not gonna. Did you figure it out yet?
Nope.
Yeah, well, that's like I don't know if you could get. I don't know how Acme would feel about you turning in that much. They probably wouldn't want you to do that.
They'd probably make me go through that machine, and I'm not going to give that machine anything.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot they got one of those.
Those machines take 10 or 15%.
Yeah, they take a lot.
Okay, I wasn't thinking about that. They've got one of those. So
I'm not giving them my hard-earned money.
You could give it to Melissa, like one day at a time, kind of thing. Kind of like Johnny Cash and building the car. He did it one piece at a time.
I need to find that.
You could give Missy.
Did you ever hear that Johnny Cash song about his dad was an auto worker, and he kept sneaking stuff over the fence. He had
in his lunchbox.
He had parts from like a 54 or 55. The front end was from the 55. Funny as hell song. I'm going to have to find that for the station.
Sorry, that's what I grew up on, too. Johnny Cash, Werner Wagner, Dolly Parton.
You talk about the banks. They didn't really close the banks because of COVID, because when you look at the tellers, you're already about 4 or 5 feet from them to begin with. The reason why they closed the banks is because they couldn't tell between the customers wearing masks and the criminals wearing masks.
There we go.
Oh, Dale. Yep, you're right.
It don't matter if he's on a road or not.
Well, you ever notice it's like the only people that can rob convenience stores and banks have to be between 4.5 and 7 feet tall?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we won't see Bill Klein, from the Little Couple robbing a bank, huh?
Because, that's what they're training them to do. So, how tall, watch them running out of the door. And it's like, can you have a description? He was 6 foot tall, and he was wearing a mask.
Yes.
It's like, okay, we'll get our sketch artist on this right away.
Right on it.
All right, boss, what are we going to do now?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
We got about 20 minutes left. 15 minutes.
We got that long?
Whatever it is.
Did you see the post I made yesterday, Dad?
About what?
Last night. I was coming home, and I think everybody's going stir crazy, with this whole coronavirus. But we ended up getting off the highway at V. Odom and 77, where there's a car dealership and a U-Haul place. And I saw all this smoke, billowing out from behind this building. I'm like, what the heck is going on? All these cars were filing in, right? And I'm like, are they having a drive-through barbecue or something? Come to find out, there was a group that they do, what is it? They burn rubber. I can't remember. Drifters. It's a drifter club, I guess, had a gathering of over 100 people. And they were in this parking lot just blowing up their tires, right? We drove past and we saw a cop. She didn't put her lights on. But then I get to my friend Kim's house and found out that the cops had arrived. We drove back by. There were 15 to 20 cops. 3 or 4 paddy wagons I saw. They were breaking it all up.
Well, that's good too.
So it's no wonder they didn't go to that place in Talmadge last night, then, huh?
Yeah, Flora went over to.
I went to. Go on.
Say the name.
Melanie,
they
go
went
on.
to South Hawkins Plaza after they broke it all up, about an hour later, they all regrouped at Southland's Plaza, started it up again.
Huh.
I'm like, oh my goodness, do these people not learn?
We went over to, Flora went to the Mexican restaurant over here by us.
Our local Mexican place.
And
they were having a pate in the parking lot.
Oh my goodness.
And I was kind of like, when I pulled in, I was like, holy moly. Now, they weren't inside, these people, but they were all in the parking lot. Were they all 6 feet apart? I'm thinking not, but so I went in, got our order, and the girl helped me carry it out. I mean, their parking lot, I know you know where we're talking about, Melanie. Their parking lot was full, and there was probably a half a dozen cars in that parking lot in front of that other little health food store. And so girl helped me carry it out, got it in the car, come home when we found out that didn't have everything, the whole order, that your dad was missing a very important part of his fajitas.
Yeah, it's called the shells.
The shells. And so,
can you imagine a fajita with no shells?
I mean, when I went to leave, though, there was a police officer that pulled in the parking lot. So I figured, oh, well, they're probably shutting this down. I'm glad I'm getting out of here now. Like I said, I came home, we called. Well, the woman says to me, she goes, well, go ahead, come back up. I'll make it right, whatever. So I went back up, and flippin' A, the cars were still all there. I thought, holy moly, now what now? Now, we do know, I don't know what the guy's name is, but there is an Akron City police officer that is married to the lady that those two own that place. So I'm kind of wondering if that's why maybe heads were being turned. I don't know, which wouldn't be right, but,
I did think there was somebody did an act of kindness for me yesterday, or he tried to, and I hated to turn him down.
Yeah, the neighbor man.
The neighbor came. I went out. I hadn't started the lawn tractor since last year, and I thought, well, it's time to get it started. It's a brand new flipping tractor. It should start. Hasn't been that long. Well, I go get out there, and I crank and nothing. And I cuss a little bit, and I put the charger on it and crank it some more, and nothing. I probably worked on that thing for a good couple of hours. Well, about an hour and a half in, the neighbor guy, who's a Akron patrolman, comes over, and he had just got a brand new tractor, too. Except his was just delivered about a week ago.
No, it was just Friday.
Oh, Friday?
Thursday or Friday is when Walter got that.
He gets this tractor, and he comes over, and he says, hey, he says, your lawn needs mowed. He says, and I see you're having problems. He says, you want me to come over and knock it out for you? He says, I got no problem doing that. And I said, any other time I'd jump at a chance for this. I said, but damn it, I want to mow my lawn.
He wanted to play with, your dad wanted to play with his new toy.
I wanted to run my new toy around. That's right.
And of course, Officer Walter wanted to play more with his new toy yesterday too.
He walked away. He really looked like he was kind of disappointed, huh? Could have done, Sure, you can mow it. Let me see if I can get mine started, and I'll help you.
Yeah.
My dad did that.
We can run around the neighborhood.
He wouldn't even ask. This was in the 80s, 90s. He got, I think he had, I can't remember what the original one, it was before I was born, but he had the Simplicity, and then that one, the heads got blown, which I'm not a car person or engine person. It's something about the rings and on the cylinders, and that's about my understanding of it. And then he replaced it with a John Deere. He got this, John Deere, this fancy, all the bells and whistles on this thing, it costs as much as a used car. And he wouldn't ask.
He'd just do it.
He would. We had, out in Green where I grew up, we had the largest lot. It was actually two. Well, actually, before I was born, he actually had the equivalent of 3 lots. He sold it to where the one house is behind us now, but technically we had the equivalent of 2 lots. And not all of it was grass, and because of all the shade. But my dad would get on there, and he would just go across the street, then he'd go to the other neighbor, go to other. And I remember one time I'm in working on my computers upstairs, and my mom comes up, and she's like, "Where's your father?" And I'm like, He's
out mowing on somewhere.
He was mowing Harrison's yard, and then he was mowing Smith's yard, and then he was on Mallow's yard, and then he went up around Province and going towards the oh good grief, I lived there for like 20 years and I can't remember the name. Skyview. I think it's Skyview Road, goes on the Cottage Grove. So I don't think I had my license yet. I got on my 10-speed, and he was like all the way on the other side of the.
Now that sounds like me. I like your father.
And just people he knew.
Oh, okay. So at least he knew the people.
Oh yeah, he would just indiscriminate, but he would just mow.
Yeah. Was he good about cleaning snow too?
Well, that's a whole other thing where we only did ours, but my dad, if you remember the show Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, More Power.
Yep.
That was my dad.
Yeah.
We had a Tecumseh snowblower that had an 8 horsepower engine on it. That thing would throw snow 30 feet in the air, 40 feet away. It had an electric start. Electric start. You didn't have to pull start it, but it had like an electrical start where all the lights in the house would dim when you'd hit the button.
Awesome.
I mean, it had wheels that were probably 10, 12 feet in diameter. When that show came on TV,
you all thought about your dad.
Oh, he watched it because he
more
power because he loved his toys. I mean, to the degree where if you've ever used a table saw and they have an anti-kickback clutch.
Excuse me.
Well, he, in true Tim Taylor fashion,
oh boy,
he said, "That's it." I remember he was reading the manual or something because we had an old Crosley Shelvador refrigerator. And this was like one of these 1940s refrigerators that had like the
lead lined.
Yeah, I mean literally, it had the metal clasp door where you don't dare get your finger in the door when you're closing it because it's like a car door. I'm not exaggerating at all.
I know. We probably used to have
it was
like that.
It was a wedding gift, and they moved it from Monroe Falls from the apartment there to the house in Green.
And it wasn't very big, was it?
And they put it in before they put the floor. I mean, while they were building the house, it couldn't leave the house. It would not go up the staircase.
Wow.
Oh,
So, in any case, I come down. We kept all of our pop down there, and depending where you get this thing to this from, it could be soda, it could be a Coke, but we call it here in Ohio, we call it pop. Anyway.
Exactly. Thank you.
And I come down, get some pop, and it's smaller than the refrigerator today. It was probably about a 5-foot tall refrigerator.
Yeah.
And they didn't have freezer units. Then you actually had a separate freezer unit.
Okay.
So this is before they had the freezer units in them. So it's all nothing but refrigeration. So I come down the steps, and I get the pop out. My dad's sitting there at his workbench, and he's like, I said, "What you doing, Dad?" He says, "This is a 10-inch table saw." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And he says, "I can only rip 9 3/4 inches."
Oh, jeez. Oh,
and I'm like,
oh, okay.
And he's like, "I need to figure out how to take this anti-kickback clutch off." And I'm like, what's an anti-kickback clutch, Dad? He says, well, you know when you're pushing the board through and the table saw blade is turning towards you, and what happens is, because the board is on... Why do I sound like I sounded like an announcer at Wrigley Field. Going along, and it'll lift up.
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, I just wasn't sure if you were just screwing things.
Here, you want to sound like you're in an auditorium here?
Was he screwing something up?
Yeah.
Here, let's do that. Now batting number 37.
So he shows me this thing that has these little teeth on it, and what it does is it pretty much hits the board and just goes, click, and goes up a notch, and click, and up a notch, and it keeps the board from going up. And he says, well, you see that mounting point right there where it screws into the fence? He said, and he figured out how to take, so that he could rip, because he's like, I paid, and he was frugal about money, but he wasn't against spending money on things. I mean, he had like a $30,000 wood shop that he collected over 30 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, by the time I was born, I mean, it was pretty much like Norm Abrams, the New Yankee Workshop. That's literally what my basement looked like. No joke. Anytime Norm bought something, my dad bought something. The same thing. I'm not kidding you. So he was like, so I'm helping this, and I'm like, don't tell your mother I'm doing this.
I was going to say, am I going to get in trouble with Mom?
But he's like, I paid $350. No, he said I paid $300. I can't remember how much it was, but he was like, I paid $350 for this, and he said, it said it ripped 10 inches, but it doesn't rip 10 inches.
Oh boy. Oh dear. Yeah, my mom and dad refinished antiques, and last week I think I said that they did Gerlinger's house in every year at Christmas time, and made all the cutouts and all that good stuff. But our basement looked just like that. He had everything imaginable because they were busy refinishing antiques or doing Gerlinger's, Christmas stuff.
So you ought to see that house now.
Didn't another doctor purchase that house? Or?
No, it's
right now.
Guy by the name of Jack. Yeah, I think you met his. Didn't you meet him?
Who?
Or I think you better take this conversation.
Yeah,
okay, offline. On another subject,
I'll talk to you about
I just want you to know that the International Space Station is viewable to the Akron, Ohio area tomorrow at 4:45 a.m. If you want to get up and it's
okay,
and it's clear.
Okay, honey, I'll wake you up.
Can they empty the Mr. Thirsty so you can see a shooting star?
But it's if you look at it in the west-northwest sky, you're going to see it at 4:40 for 4 minutes. It's visible for 4 minutes.
I know you can actually hear that on amateur radio.
Yep. And then Tuesday,
you can actually talk to it too.
You know what? I've heard that.
You can. You have to.
Do they talk back to you?
Yep, they can. It actually is what they call a dual band transmit.
Oh, I want to do that. Ooh, boy.
You go up on, or it comes down on 2 meters and it goes up on 10, or on I think it's 440. so that it separates.
If you miss it Monday, it's also visible Tuesday at 5:37 a.m. for 4 minutes in the northwest sky. So it's a cool thing to watch. I mean, the first time
I've seen that before.
It is
northwest sky.
It's since you're homeschooling your children. It's
I'm
great.
Gonna get my children.
Get your children up at 5 in the morning, baby. March them out the door and quick lock it.
Yeah, I don't think so. No.
But at any rate,
thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
So let's double back here for a second. Flora, when are you going to do your own show? Well, Flora's Corners. Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm getting warm to the idea.
No pressure, but come on now.
Oh no, I got to figure out a time that I can do this. I got to figure it out.
I'm getting warm to the idea of it.
Are you really?
Yeah.
How about that? Well, I just got to figure it out. And, like I bounced it off you as far as and I maybe have posted out there a little bit, but you know what's going on right now. I mean, with what happened with me at the store, you know, at the store yesterday, at the
Flora's
store
Corner, a woman's perspective.
a week ago, being a grandma and working from home and trying to have a 7-year-old, you know, you got these kids, you know, the toilet gets plugged and grandma's got to try to figure out how to unplug it and still be in a meeting at the same time. And, you know,
You just can't, you got to stay away from pragmatism, though, because we already got a show on that.
Pragmatism.
Yeah. And the search for it.
I'm sorry, you're using a big word on me.
Pragmatism is what Dave does on his show. So we got to stay away from that. Sorry, Dave. We'll keep it away from it.
I guess we'll have to talk later because I'm not sure what you're talking about, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
I think that'd be a cool idea. If you think so, take and let us know on Facebook.
I guess I'll just sing. That's what I'll do. La 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 la.
Okay, Hyacinth.
Okay, quit drinking that wine over there.
Did you ever watch Keeping Up Appearances?
Without sharing it.
Sorry.
Did you ever watch Keeping Up Appearances?
No.
Oh, that's my show. It's
Hyacinth Bouquet.
If it is not 50 sci-fi, this chick's not watching it.
It's one of the BBC.
It's a BBC show.
Oh, I only watch one BBC show, and that's To Call the Midwife.
If you watched this, you'd probably watch it.
Okay.
This thing is it's a good English comedy, and it's funnier than hell. It's about this sophisticated woman that has got this sophisticated husband, and she's so sophisticated everybody can't stand her.
Awesome.
Yeah. Dale brought up that it's Hyacinth Bouquet.
Yeah, her last name's Bucket.
It's a bucket.
Bucket. But
she goes by Bouquet.
But she is Hyacinth Bouquet.
Bouquet.
Oh, you did that well that time.
I'm Mrs. Bouquet. This is my husband, Richard. And I have a sister.
And you ain't even had any wine.
Yes, I have. I've had two.
Right
I've had two.
That's why that's coming up.
I've had two. Thank you very much. And Hyacinth doesn't even drink. But Flora does.
Flora, you sound like Julia Childs.
Well, that's kind of what Hyacinth sounds like, actually. Hyacinth kind of sounds like Julia Child, but not quite. I was actually going for Graham Kerr.
Yeah.
Since I've been having my wine on the side.
Yeah.
But you've never seen Are You Being Served? That's from another BBC. It's on a what do they call that in department store.
Yeah, no, I've not seen that.
We got about another 4 minutes and we're going to wrap this up. So.
Awesome. She's getting up to get us all a glass of wine.
Oh, right.
I just know it.
Wine,
but we have to drive home, so.
Anyway, Dale, how long you in for? How long you in for, Dale?
Yeah. I think...
Sounds ominous.
I think I leave on the 11th. I think that's Monday.
Oh, so you got what else?
Well, I was scheduled to be home on Friday, but the way it works out is they don't, they try to get you as close to the home as possible because you're going home empty and they're paying for it.
Oh.
There's no load. And what happened was I had a load that delivered to Carroll Spring, which is northwest of Chicago. And then they had a load
I don't want to get in trouble for giving that to you.
That had to be picked up in the morning in, was it, oh, my mind just blanked out. It's in Indiana. It's right there on the Indiana, Ohio border on Interstate 70.
Toledo?
No, it's where,
you said Indiana?
Yeah,
Fort Wayne?
I was going to say...
Hold on, he's pulling out his map quest.
Yeah, I was going to say he's got to look it up.
No, it kind of bugs me. But anyways, I had to drive down there. Well, they said it was going to work out because they had called me and said, well, here, okay, there's Columbus, Ohio, Springfield, Richmond, Indiana.
Richmond, yes.
Richmond, Indiana, there it is. Well, anyways, they're like, well, we have a guy that lives in Tucson that needs to get home, and then we need to get you home to Akron. So, but we have this load, and this load was supposed to be picked up at 4:30, but we know you can't make it down there because you were delayed at your delivery.
He's playing with the things again.
Pretty much the long story short is I drove down and then picked that up in the morning, and then he came in I think about noon, and we swapped trailers, and then they just said for me to drive on home, and I said, well, what about the extra days? And they're like, well, freight's not slow, but it's all brokered freight because a lot of our customers are closed down, which I think some of the manufacturing in Ohio is supposed to open up on the 4th.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
And a lot of our customer base is manufacturing based, so I'm thinking it'll probably pick up by the time I
know my
leave.
2 surgery centers are opening Monday, tomorrow.
Oh, I got called for mine. One of my pacemakers. Well, I had both pacemakers removed because I had a MRSA blood infection, and so they had to take, and it lands on everything plastic. So they had to remove it. Well, then the COVID hit, and I haven't been able to get them back in, which has been hell for me. And so I got a call on Friday that with a 15th scheduled date, which will be really fun to have that on the 15th and come here on the 16th. Awesome.
We're going to be all right.
So yeah. They were talking all the surgery centers and outpatient would all open here in the state of Ohio.
I actually knew this a week ago.
Well, the nerve of you not telling me.
The way I could tell was my business picked up.
Is that what happens with you too? Does business pick up? So, are they able to tell you where you're going next week?
No.
Well, nerve. It'd be nice to know, huh?
No, sometimes like they have a mobile app that.
Yeah, I got the same. I got something similar here.
They can send me information. Sometimes I'll know the day before. Sometimes I'll know the day of.
Yeah.
But usually, it's the rinse. How the shampoo instructions: rinse, lather, repeat if necessary.
Rinse, lather, repeat. I love that. Okay.
It's either I pick up something in Springfield, Chillicothe, Delaware, or not Delaware. Where is it?
Are those all high manufacturing cities?
Yes, Chillicothe actually is heavily into manufacturing because the primary employer in Chillicothe is Kenworth.
Oh, Kenworth, yes.
It's a Packard company. They build the class... Oh, they make Class 8, but I think they make some others. But semis. And there's a lot of machine shops in that make parts for... Kenworth. And then they have ones that do both. Like we have one that will pick up stuff from, and there's as a tangent there are other companies like Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
They make certain parts that Kenworth doesn't because they don't make everything. Basically, Kenworth, they'll take the raw steel and make something, but when it comes to like the braking systems and like they'll get that stuff from Jacobson, they'll get Hendrix, they'll get the actual brakes from Hendrix or the suspension systems for the suspensions and that. So it's all
interrelated. It's
all like within like an hour's thing of Columbus, a little bit further because Springfield from Chillicothe is a little longer, but yeah, it's all. And it basically, A lot of that stuff will go to Texas, or it'll go to Calexico, California, to be imported into Mexico.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we got to close this up. Want to plug your books first?
Hey, thanks.
Hey, you're welcome.
Well, so...
How do we get a hold of Beth?
Amazon.com. Just type in Beth Roose and all my books will come up, but the number one... it was number one in children's was Santa's Lost Keys. So... grab that. Also, Jimmy Paul the Pug Tooth Fairy.
I love that one.
Is also,
and
you should be able to buy the video here starting Tuesday.
Oh,
so that should be up on Amazon as well. And of course, there's my other books that have traditional artwork. The other is more computer generated CGI, but Winter Birds of Christmas, Everett Road Covered Bridge, which has to do with the valley, Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and Funny Elmer, all revolve around the park. Those are all traditionally illustrated. So, if you're not a big fan of traditional, which is real artwork, hand-drawn, go pick up those. But if you like the other kind better, then Lost Keys is your book. Grandma Mabel Rescues Pearl, and then Jimmy Paul. I have a new book coming out here in 2 weeks. It's Elf Sparkle Meets Christmas the Horse, and I actually have the film for that. It's a half-hour film. It's been on AMG TV before, and so that will also be up on Amazon to buy. But before we get off here, what are we talking about next week? I think we should talk about the cryptoids around here, like Bigfoot or the Ohio Grassman. And I think we should talk about the snallygaster and the peninsula python. And
I'm into that.
I know. And the winking lizard. No.
I like the winking lizard.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Me too. I think we should talk about those next week.
Peninsula.
I have all the
memories of the Peninsula nightclub. Yeah.
Oh yes, for sure. But yeah, there's a lot of cryptoids, believe it or not, here in Ohio.
Well,
Really?
What's weird was I stumbled onto one afternoon a thing they were talking about paranormal activity, and it was wasn't it in the Cuyahoga
It was
Valley?
in the park system, yeah.
In the park system. And they showed something about there was supposed to be some underground bunker
right.
that was put. I mean, it was like, you got to be kidding me.
Wasn't that over there by Blossom or something like that?
Yeah. Well, behind the where the Hemorrhites used to live.
Yeah.
Back there. So, but there's numerous other cryptoids that like the python and Ohio Grassman and the snallygaster and on the Point Pleasant and Ohio border is, of course, the Mothman. And there is one more. I can't remember what it is. Oh, that heat-seeking reptilian something or other. I forget what it's called. I'll have to look it up. But
we can do that next week.
Wouldn't that be fun?
And Ohio has a lot of snipe, too.
A what?
Snipe.
A snipe.
Yeah, snipe.
Snipes. Yeah.
Haven't you ever went snipe hunting?
No.
You get a big burlap bag and you go out in the backyard or go out in the field and you start yelling snipe.
It's got to be in the dark.
It's got to be in the middle of. It's got to be after. It's got to be after midnight.
At least after 9 o'clock.
It's got to be in the dark.
Awesome.
And
in a graveyard, right?
When you see one, you throw the bag over, turn your flashlight on, you got a snipe.
And before we sign off here, I'd like to plug Uranus, and it's
Interstate. Ain't anywhere near my anus.
Yeah, it's Interstate 44, exit 163.
Awesome. Off of Route 66.
All right, it's been fun, you guys. We will see you all next week. Be sure to look for us on Spreaker if you missed any of our show this evening. We are on the Crooked River Media platform, and or you can just look up Radioactive. Have a good week, everybody. 73, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Melanie.
Radioactive is a production of Crooked River Media.